All right, John here again with 18 Inches Down. Thanks so much, guys, for being here, listening, watching by YouTube, listening on our podcast, Podbean, which is airing and showing everywhere that you can hear this through technology. So I really appreciate the feedback and the encouragement. You know, it's amazing when you start something that is in alignment with who you know yourself to be at this point, because we're always expanding, we're always growing, right? And we're at different levels, different paradigm levels, different areas of awakening, if you will. We are going to enter into an alignment at a certain level, and so you start hearing the bones of your spiritual back break, so to speak, and pop, not break but pop into place, into alignment. And it's almost like as if when you engage into something that you know to be truly authentic to you right now, because again, we're always expanding, is it's almost like you start at the bottom of the spine as the love or God being the chiropractor, popping the back into alignment where it's been so misaligned and painful. And today I wanted to talk about the corporate job, or the job working for somebody else, whether it's a small business, medium, or corporate, because it's like that. It's been very painful for many men, especially, and women, but men especially, because we relate so much to calling, purpose, destiny. You know, if you look back way, way, way back when the first men walked the planet, they had communion, unrestricted, unrestrained communion with love, with God. God is love. Say they walked with him in the cool of the day as a father and a son. Now, if that triggers you at all because you had a bad father or you didn't have a good representation, I'm truly sorry for that. But that was not representative of unconditional love. So if we can learn to separate the two, the God in you, you would treat you with the utmost respect and care, wouldn't you? At least that's what you desire at your core. Now, your ego may be something else, may say something else because of its conditioning. Okay. But at the core, I believe every single one of us love ourselves in a really healthy way. It's just trying to permeate through the rest of our conditioning, our programming. That's the challenge, right? So you go back and look what man and God walked together. It was unrestrained, unrestricted, and complete freedom. Yes, freedom to choose, freedom and free will. And, the first man could do what he wanted. And certainly did. If we look at the account of the Bible with Adam and God, for example, there's other stories, other portrayals in different religions and things. But just for an example, for the sake of what we're talking about here, so that most people can understand this or relate to, is before Adam chose his own egoic way to lead his own life, which he had free will and powerful to manage his own freedom that way, he had unlimited resources. It's very plain in what it says. It says, every fruit tree is given for your food. You have plenty of food in the garden. You have anything that you could want, need, or imagine by way of clean, healthy food. That's just, he didn't know anything else. He didn't know what a pork chop was. He didn't know, at that point, he didn't know what bacon was, right? So at that point, he's eating clean, healthy food right out of the produce section. But it was unlimited. He could have as much as he wanted. There was no need for currency because he was living in a current of love that provided everything. And this is what this podcast is about, is going into that current, into that flow where everything is provided free of charge and effortless. But this is why we're always massaging this in. We're awakening little by little. Sometimes people leaps and bounds. It just depended upon the individual, and everything is okay. Every level, every speed, every accelerated moment, every moment of pondering, it's all good. It's all according to you, your makeup, and the relationship between you and love, you and God, right? It's how at least it should be. Religion forces something else, but that's another story here. That's another message. So you had this unrestricted freedom. And he didn't have a cap on his salary because he didn't need currency in the way that we need it now, if it's form of exchange. He had it all. It was unlimited. Everything was provided. And it's very clear there that it says that the ground yielded its strength. What does that mean? It means that everything was already magnetized to the magnet Adam was, or the first people that walked the earth, whoever they were in succession. So when heart and mind are coherent, they're moving in rhythm one with the other, with the heart leading, and then the mind and the ego following, the brain following, with the analytical side and the creative side, and they're in sync, they're in harmony, or at least somewhat, you're going to start to see a magnetism that's measured. It's a magnetic flow that's measured. Science has already proven this many, many times. Look at the work of Joe Dispenza. They take machines in, they measure this in his week-long retreats. And it's off the charts when people go into a theta meditative state. Why? Because they finally let go. When we let go, when we surrender, when we relent, when we drop in 18 inches down into that heart arena, into the true reality of who we are in our own authenticity, this is when the magic happens. This is when the power happens. This is when things start working for us instead of against us. So he had unrestricted, the first men and women that walked the earth had unrestricted magnetism happening for their lives. So it would draw everything that they needed. You say, well, that was a simple life. Not really. Not really. When you look at it from the standpoint of what was created around them and the free choice that they had. Imagine having that level of responsibility. It was freeing in one end, but then there's just this quote responsibility without the ego fully developed there, meaning it wasn't conditioned by some other wounded person or people or atmospheres. Then you have this free will choice to go, oh, okay, be plentiful, go out and populate the earth. When Eve came along, go out and multiply, go out and procreate and bring in other humans so that you can have fellowship, so you can have this sense of camaraderie with other like species. So there's this responsibility, but it didn't feel like this big weight because you didn't have the ego saying, oh my gosh, I've got to do this, or I'm in trouble with God, or man, I've got to multiply, or I've got to go out and take care of all this, the garden and everything else around me. I mean, I'm the only one here. No, you're not. You had the entirety, the fullness of God walking with you day by day that did all of the heavy lifting for you, because there was no John Deere tractors at that time. So, but there was something greater than a John Deere tractor. It was God in motion, in and through him, without restriction, without restraint, without resistance. Pure love is where non-resistance dwells. The purity of that love, the innocence of that love, is where everything effortless is and has its being. So we're looking for that, aren't we? We are. We really are. In the workplace, we're looking for it in our work, our careers, our calling, our business, whatever it is that you're engaged in. Most people are working for the corporate world, especially in America. They're working for some business. They're working for some corporation. They're working for maybe it's a mom and pop. Now, depending on where you're at and what you're doing is to the level that you're actually enjoying what you're doing or putting up with it. So the question is, are you merely putting up with something to pay some bills and all this pressure is on you to pay the bills? Or are you really in your flow? Now, you may think at this point in your life that you're really in your flow, and maybe some people really are, but I would say a majority aren't. Because there's always something that we have not been awakened to that we didn't realize before. For here's an example. Say you have a football player that gets horribly injured and he thought his path was, hey, I'm born and destined to be a receiver, a wide receiver, for example, or a quarterback. And they've just worked all their life to become better and better and better. They love the sport, they enjoy it, and they're thinking, man, this is all there is. This is me. This is me. This is what I'm going to retire in. I can't think of anything else but football. I just live and breathe it, right? But then an accident happens. And then you've heard people say this. I know you have at least once in your life. Some famous person or some semi well known person or not well known, somebody's going to say something like this: I didn't know that I would actually love this so much post accident. I didn't realize that this was my real calling. I thought it was football, but this is my real calling. Maybe he got an accident and he goes into some kind of a starts a foundation for something that happened in that injury, or somebody else got fatally wounded and then they set up this foundation. They start working with kids. It could go off in a million different directions, right? But then they're sitting there going, man, I didn't realize. Well, why is that? Because our ego is so hell-bent, dead set on one way, going down the path of, I'm going to be a manager at this job, I'm going to be a football player. And then we get in there, we jump through all the hoops through our ego, because most of it's based in the framework of egoic action. Although people do good things in business, right? They get tacos, you get food, all of that. A lot of it's based on that structure in society that we've built through this conditioning called ego. And then when we move in that and we live in that and we think it's just one level or one way, then we're subject to the lid on that entity, on that business. And when we're looking at it from the, let's go back to the football player. He's like, okay, yeah, mom and dad, my friends, my relatives are like, man, I'm gonna be famous one day. And then you're telling yourself that, I'm gonna be the next Michael Jordan, or I'm gonna be the next greatest wide receiver there ever was, right? Jerry Rice or somebody else. And so you're looking at this from that standpoint, which is really not in itself bad, because you want to go into sports. However, depending on the level of that drivenness, if it's for money or if it's for fame or if it's for both, and the love of the game, then there's some working out and some healing to do of that egoic structure in order for you to grow. This life, guys, is all about learning just how much of a substance of love we are, and to give that away. Love your neighbor as yourself. That is not religious. That is a truth. We're waking up to love one another. We're waking up to live by that love for one another. We're to empower one another, to value one another, to honor one another through that love. And if we think it's any other way, it goes right back to ego. Man builds pyramids thinking that lofty is the end game, thinking that being somebody or famous, there's plenty of famous people that are miserable, plenty of wide receivers that are absolutely just in misery because they're doing something that mom or dad wanted them to do. They're trying to live their dream through their kid, or they're just like, this is all there is. They arrive at the NFL and they're like, oh, I thought it would make me feel different. I thought it would be different. Yeah, I got all this money, the cars and the women and all these kind of things, and yet I'm miserable. But yet we don't want to tell anybody that, because then it would look like we're weak. It would look like we're not grateful. It would look like we're what do you mean? The ego does not want to look embarrassed. But guess what? There's a lot of embarrassment coming to the ego if we don't relent and see it first, and then let go of it before we get embarrassed, one embarrassment after the other. Okay. Embarrassment is a gift. If it's more of a gift, it really is a gift. Can be. If we let it get to that point, we don't have to let it get to that point, in other words, but it's still a gift, because oftentimes it wakes us up. Some people double down and they're stubborn and they don't wake up, and then they get crushed or they get destroyed in some way, some shape or form. There's an old proverb that says, he who stiffens his neck is beyond remedy. It means that if you harden your heart You stiffen yourself, you stiffen your neck, meaning that I am not moving from my egoic stance. I'm not moving from what I want to do here, even though all signs point to something else. Even though there's a horrific accident that happened to kind of get your attention because you weren't listening before when the repercussions were a lot less severe. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's all love, but sometimes that love gets real loud because of our own stubbornness. And so when it relates to the work, when it relates to the lid being on the job, on the ceiling in our lives, in order to live an unlimited, unrestrained, free life, then it requires, okay, first of all, I'm surrendering, saying this isn't working anymore, this 9 to 5 where I'm getting paid peanuts. It's not working anymore. And more than that, it's I'm not heard or seen the way my gifts are developed to be seen and heard. That's not an egoic statement. That is a true reality. If in fact a company hires somebody that is super valuable, but they're not paying them what they're worth, and they're giving them 3 or 4 other roles in cross training that has nothing to do with what their gifts, talents, and abilities call for, what they're really good at. I've watched this countless times, you guys, in the corporate world, and I can tell you that that lid causes suffering. The cap over us, the lid over us, saying that you can only go so high, you can only expand so much, and you better be a nice boy, better be a nice girl here because we own the company, do what we say, or you're out of here. They treat you like a number. How many of you have that happened to? Please put it in the comments that you've been fired. Look, just because you've been canned from a lid underneath of a lid that you wanted to pop out of and expand, that's not who you are. I used to tell people all the time when I had to let them go for various reasons, for theft or whatever, or just knew that they weren't a good fit. They were like way out of alignment. I would always say, look, don't make this your identity. It's just a job underneath the lid and the cap of somebody else that thinks you're small. Now, they would never say that out loud. And guys, I'm generally speaking, I'm not saying this about every company because there's some great companies out there, but hear what I'm saying. There's far too many that are now being dismantled, and they're trying to keep them erected. They're trying to keep them in survival when COVID and other things were meant to restructure them or dismantle them altogether so that they can be in alignment. We don't look at things like this, but I do, and others like me. I look at the root cause and the core of everything and say, oh, why did that business close over there? Maybe they were misaligned to begin with and they were just doing it for the money. Now you can taste that in the food, can't you? I can. When I go into a restaurant, I can taste the salary cap. I can taste the wage. I can taste the love and the care or lack thereof. I can taste it all. And you can too. If you tune into it, you're like, ooh, this sucks. This tastes bland. This is supposed to be Thai food, spiced up and taste all the flavors and the nuances of the love and the care that the chef put into it. This is so bland. What's going on here? I can tell it's cheap chicken from the alleyway, and the spices came right out of an old warehouse somewhere. What's going on here? The basil's not fresh, and the list goes on. And you're like, ooh, somebody doesn't care in that kitchen back there. Maybe they're misaligned. I'm always looking for alignment because alignment is just about everything to our authenticity being revealed and shown and shared. Guys, you know this is true. And so you have this cap over your life working for someone else, and generally speaking, again, for the majority, working for somebody else, and you know that you're more valuable than that. You know that you have greater potential. You know that the real you is screaming inside for more, for something different. But because of, quote, responsibilities and paying your bills, you have to stay there. No, you don't. No, you don't. I love it when somebody said, well, you need to quit your day job. Don't keep your day job. Quit it. Well, I can't just do that, John. What are you talking about? I'm not saying you have to do it today, but listen to your spirit. Listen to the deeper part of you to say, how can I wake up today or tomorrow? You're already awake. Wake up tomorrow and say, what would happen if I just listen to the lead and the prompt inside of me to take a step in the other direction, or if I just began to look on Indeed.com for something that's more in line with what I love and I enjoy, or let my spirit whisper something into my brain, into my head, into my soul to say, do this today. And how simple this is that you get a thought that's contrary to the routine and the grind that you've been doing for years. You'll get a thought that comes out of nowhere because you sat long enough, still enough in the morning, meditating or soaking, and you're like, ooh, there's a thought that I never thought of. Call this person, email that person, get on that website. That's the beginning of something wonderful to come out from underneath that lid. See, because the lid is always going to cap us at a certain wage, at a certain approval from upper management. It's going to cap us and keep us at the size of that business role, whatever that is. And you know that you have unlimited potential. Every person does. They're just scared to move in that direction, or they're so conditioned, so programmed to believe that they're just a small human being. Can I just tell you that no one on the face of this planet is small? Some people may be doing small actions. Some people may be living in a small, violent nature. Some people may be living shrunk in shame. All of those things, but those are all illusions to who you really are. You are made of unconditional love, and so am I. We both are. We all are. Some of the terrorists in the world just don't understand that. They don't realize that because they were horrifically abused and brainwashed their entire life. So they think it's only this way, this surface level of ego. They don't realize that there's this whole big, beautiful, vast, wonderful, fun-filled, adventurous world called their spirit. That's the real, genuine them, carved out and honed in a personal reality called a personality, called a human body, called anatomy. We're stuffed into this human skin, but we're as big as the cosmos. That's just mind-blowing in itself. But we're like look at it this way. We're a spark of God. We're a piece of God. We're a portion of love stuffed into this earth suit so that we can love others. We can love ourselves and love others and be of service to others through that love, what we love to do. But think about it this way, guys. If you are not living in your flow state, loving what you're doing, enjoying what you're doing, then you are shrunk at some level because of a belief system. Your belief system says that I'm underneath the pressure of the opinions of everyone else. That's one level. Another level is I've got to pay these bills. That's another level of survival. This goes on and on depending on what your mindset is and your belief system from your conditioning. So you're bigger than all this. I'm going to say this until the cows come home, and they come in a way carrying gold on their backs. I'm going to say this and say this and say this because it's so true. There is no price you can put on a human being. It's invaluable. It is priceless. It is fathomless. It is mind-blowing on the value that we carry. There is no value. It's way beyond that. Because how can you put a value and a price on unconditional love and a piece of that or a spark of that stuffed into a human body called humanity, called you, called me? There's no price. It's priceless. So why not tap into and move into that priceless part of us that has no salary cap, it has no wage cap, it has no lid of saying you need to be here 9 to 5, 10 to 7, 11 to 7, 7 to or 11 to 7 a.m. graveyard shift. Oh my gosh. Some people are wired as night owls, but I tell you what it does to the human body. We're not made to stay up all night. Anyway, that's another health show. Okay. You get the point. The point is that I have met so many like regional directors in my life and what I've done in the corporate world, where in senior living, where I was an executive director, regional ops person, where I'd go in and do contract work. And some of you already know this, but I used to go in and be the fix-it guy, turn over staff where they were needed, put the right role, right person, right place in play there. I would fix the budget, turn things around. And these are senior living communities throughout the U.S., different levels, memory care, assisted living, and independent living. And so You would go in and you got real used to seeing who was in the right place, in the right role, that they were aligned or not, or if they were just there for the job and for the pay. You could tell they're miserable. They're like, why are you here? And when I would meet with them one-on-one, I'd say, what makes you come alive here? What? It doesn't. I'm just here for a job. My mom made me do it if they were younger, or man, I got to pay the bills. Who are you to even ask me that kind of thing? They almost get offended when you say, well, hey, why are you here? What do you mean, why am I here? It's a job, buddy. Don't ask me that. You know what I mean? And it's like, whoa, hold on a minute. That tells me something right there. I would never say this. Sometimes I did when they would open up. But that tells me right there who's running your ship, who's running your life. That's the ego or the spirit talking. Because your spirit wouldn't say that. Your spirit wouldn't get upset unless you're that far out of aligned. And then the real you is going to see it for a glimpse moment and then get upset and then go right back underneath that conditioning because it's not used to having freedom. It's not used to seeing the bigness of who they were made to be and valued to be. They're just made for conformity and compliance. Go in here and do this. And if you don't, you're going to get written up. And then if you get a few write-ups, you're out of here. Treated like a number, treated like an animal, treated like a scumbag just because you're out of alignment. I tell you what we should do is start looking in corporate America, corporate Western nations, or wherever you're at, start looking at it more of an alignment perspective. And then in the recruitment process, if the recruiter's actually in alignment, not just doing it for a paycheck, but they're actually in alignment, they were made to be a recruiter. And then they're looking for alignment. They're looking for alignment the whole time. They're not saying, what's your pay? What do you want for pay? Well, yeah, I want unlimited pay. Oh, yeah, you're funny. Here you go, $15 an hour. Here's minimum wage, whatever it is. Alignment to our true, authentic nature. Most people do not even know what that is anymore because we've been so buried in societal's pressure, the pressure cooker of society, saying that we have to be this way, be that way, the mask everyone wears because they're all operating out of a superficial fakery called the egoic structure that doesn't know who they are anymore. Never maybe knew who they were. And listen, guys, there's no condemnation with this. We just need to help unveil that. Okay, that's why I'm here. Help you unveil that to see your own authentic, real, genuine nature so that you do not have a salary cap, because every person that's living out their own authenticity does not have a salary cap, does not have a wage cap. It's unlimited. If I asked you, and you're a guitarist, maybe you're a musician, maybe you're a singer. If I said, what's your voice worth? What's it worth? Well, your program could say, well, I've been paid for this gig and that gig. And, I was real close to getting a record deal. And, I don't know, maybe 100K, bruh, maybe $100,000. It's like, hold on a minute. That's not what I really asked you. How much? How valuable is your voice? What value do you put on your voice for singing? How valuable is your gift and your skill for playing that guitar like the wind? How valuable is that? I don't know exactly. Your spirit knows, but your ego wants to put a cap on it, put a lid on it, shut it down. Well, I'm only worth this much because this is what I am. And we almost apologize for that, right? Not going to apologize for how valuable I am. There is no limit. My price, my value is unlimited, without limit, without lids, without a lid. And so when you start waking up, you start seeing that. You start seeing that you have no cap. So let me ask the question again. How valuable is your voice? I'm seeing it now. Unlimited. It's priceless. It's priceless. It's priceless. And then we start moving through inspired action by taking the lid off. The more we awaken, the more we see how much our ego is holding us back. So are you working a job just over broke? Are you working a job just over belief because of the belief system you have? Or have you taken the lid off and said, wait a minute, I do love my job, but I'm going to explore with my boss because they're wide open to this other possibilities. Now, that's one angle. If you feel inspired to do that, Another one is, well, I'm doing this side gig over here and I'm going to put more time in it. I don't have to watch a 2 hour movie at night to de stress from the job I can't stand. I'm going to put more time into this and throw it out there for free and see what happens. I'm going to put it on TikTok. I'm going to put it on Instagram, put it on YouTube and other sites wherever I can find, not because I'm trying to get money, but because I love what I do and I want to be a service and give it away free, just like I'm doing here with speaking and giving these messages out. I just love this so much. My value is unlimited. I'm not going to put a cap on it. Yes, I'll have courses. I have, speaking gigs and all that kind of thing, but I don't ever go into it looking at like, okay, I can leave it at this cap only because this is how small I am. So I'm only selling it for $1. Go on a speaking gig over here and it's like, what do you want for your speaking fee? Oh, I don't know, free. Well, yeah, you can do that once in a while when you feel inspired to do that. There's nothing wrong with that, be giving some things away for free. But if you're going to do that every single time, you're worth more than that. You say, well, yeah, I'll do it for $1. I don't know. I mean, what do you think my art's worth? What do you think my voice is worth? See, we put it on somebody else because we've been so conditioned to be small in a workplace or a job that has us flipping burgers. So we just stay there in our psyche and our mentality and say, well, this is what I'm worth. No, you're not. I'm going to say it again. No, you're not. You are priceless. You are a priceless human being. I don't care what you've done. I don't care what you've said. I don't care what you think about yourself or what your mama or your daddy said about your life. You are priceless. You are unbelievably valuable in what you do and who you are and what you dispense in this earth. You are valuable, highly prized, highly valuable because you are to God. So if you are to God, you are to the God and everybody else. Think about that for a hot second. If everyone has a piece of God in them, a spark of God in them, which they do, even the terrorists, they just don't realize it. It's covered up through conditioning. Okay? If everyone does, then there's something valuable and priceless without limit inside of them. Every one of them just needs to be uncovered, healed, integrated. Let's go. Let's go. Let's do this. All right. I'm going to drop it right there, 18 inches down. Thanks, guys, so much for listening. Appreciate you. Remember, your value is not what some business places a lid upon. Blow the lid off, whatever that means to you, and move in that direction. One moment, one step, one unfolding, one epiphany at a time, and you're going to see your value for what it is. All right. Till next time, live 18 inches down.